Ezekiel is titled for its author, who was a priest and a prophet, called to speak for God to his people during the Babylonian captivity. Ezekiel's name means God strengthens. He was a married man, but as is recorded in chapter 24, his wife died as a sign to the Jewish people of their own loss of the city of Jerusalem and the pain of that loss that they would feel. Ezekiel was taken to Babylon during the second deportation in 597 BC. He was a contemporary of Daniel and began his prophetic ministry at the age of 30 around 592. Now, at the time of Ezekiel's captivity, Daniel was already well known within Babylon, and therefore it's not unusual that Ezekiel would mention Daniel in his writings. In fact, he does so 3 times. This book is one of the larger books of the Old Testament at 48 chapters, and it contains 3 natural divisions, with chapters 1 through 24 containing prophecies of judgment for Judah that lead up to the destruction of Jerusalem. Chapters 25 through 32 contain prophecies directed to other surrounding Gentile nations, and chapters 33 through 48 contain prophecies of hope and a future restoration for God's people. All the content in these chapters appears to be in chronological order, except a lament for Egypt. Ezekiel's messages to the people recounted their sins and their covenant unfaithfulness, as well as God's continued judgment, which contradicted the false prophecies that the people were holding on to. Those prophecies promised a quick return to the land, but Ezekiel saw further judgment, highlighted by a vision of the glory of God departing from the temple and Jerusalem itself. The glory of God is a major theme emphasized in this book. You'll also find an emphasis on God's faithfulness and on God's sovereignty, with all 3 of these coming together in a prophetic message about the return of the glory of God in the millennial temple that's found in chapters 43 and 44. As a prophet, God told Ezekiel that he personally would be a sign to the nation, and 9 of those signs are found in chapters 4 through 24. Ezekiel also records 6 separate visions and several words from the Lord that could be described as parables. 2 of the most important chapters that speak of the hope of restoration are chapters 36 and 37. Both chapters contain promises of cleansing and restoration as a new covenant relationship between God and his people is revealed. Some of the most famous imagery in the book is the imagery of the Messiah, who is the true shepherd that will deliver and feed his flock in chapter 34, as well as the imagery of the valley of dry bones in chapter 37. As you read, you will notice the phrase Son of Man, which occurs over 90 times to refer directly to Ezekiel. Now, in the context of this book, that phrase highlights Ezekiel's humanity and therefore his place as a servant of God who is completely dependent upon God. You'll also notice that God often begins a message to the nation with a question and then concludes it with a statement, "Then you will know that I am the Lord." To prepare for reading Ezekiel, you can review the history that led up to its writing in 2 Kings 22 through 25. Now, don't expect to understand everything that you read in Ezekiel. It won't be easy. Some understanding will require diligent study, which is something you can come back and do later. Now, as we conclude, I want to leave you with one of the new covenant promises of God that most clearly speaks to a literal future for God's people. It's found in Ezekiel 36, verses 24 through 26. God says, "I will take you from the nations and gather you from all the countries and bring you into your own land. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean from all your uncleanness, and from all your idols I will cleanse you. And I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put in you. And I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh, and give you a heart of flesh." I hope you enjoy reading this book.